Hi there, this is Peter from Healing Your Home. Healing Your Home is a healing and a teaching that helps and aims to bring you back home to yourself. This week's video is called Power Vows. Many people do New Year's resolutions, and most people, more than 80% of the people that have New Year's resolution, they fail to live up to them. They break them, and they break them just about now. We are in 5th of March. So about 80% of everyone that has a New Year's resolution has broken their resolution by this time. That's a bit depressing, and it's actually massively disempowering. What I'm going to talk about in this video is a practice called Power Vow. And this is a way to have a similar practice as resolutions, whether it's a New Year's resolutions or some other kinds of resolutions, but in a more powerful way, more transformative. And when you have done quite a few of these, I would 150% trust people to actually make New Year's resolutions and carry them out. Power vow is a very old practice that you can find in many traditions. It's a method to transform things that you want to transform and actually directing this energy on particular thing that you want to create or you want to generate. So it works it on both ways. It brings out the obstacles and transforms them in a way that energizes what you want and directing it like this. In India, this practice is called tapas. Tapas means heat. It's a fiery practice. What you put into it is transformed and moved in a particular direction. This is one of the central opponents of all the Indian traditions, whether it's yoga, tantra, and what have you. And sometimes even yoga in the old text is just basically called tapas. In the Norse tradition, the old Germanic tradition, Icelandic, this practice is called heitstrenging. And it functions completely in the same way, that you do something challenging to transform the energies. You bring out the stuff that you want to transform in order to gain what you are setting your mind to. In the Norse tradition, we have a central figure of the whole tradition that is the master of this, who is the archetype of this, and that is Odin. Odin goes through various difficult practices in order to gain what he is wanting to gain, which is usually wisdom or deep insight. The most classical example of this is when Odin is hanging on the world tree for 9 days and 9 nights without food, without anything to drink. He is wounded by a spear, and he is given himself to himself in order to gain the wisdom of the runes. But Odin also does it when he gives his eye for the drink of Mimer's well. He also does it in the poem Grimnismal, where he is sitting between fires without food, without liquid, until he is given the cup and all the wisdom comes from him. So these are classical forms of power vows, where you do something to transform it. Also in the sagas you have an example of Ketill Hængur in Ketill Hæng saga, where he is going for a duel the next day, which is called Holmsganga, and he sits the whole night out on a mount. There's a massive snow that comes, and it's obviously clear that this is no ordinary weather, this is magical weather. And he basically weathers it, takes the power from it, and makes the power part of himself, and that goes to the duel and obviously kicks ass. So these are few examples of power vows. What is the difference between a classical affirmation and a power vow? Usually affirmation is that about something that you will do or stop doing. For example, I'm going to run 3 times a week. That's the resolution. So in the structure, they're similar, but you add few things with the power vow. The main thing is that you are dedicating this practice to a higher being. So higher being, as usually the traditional form, is a god or a goddess, or some kind of being that you really, really trust, higher beings. The reason why this makes a huge amount of difference is that the whole practice is held by this being, supported, but also is transformed like this. Also, another aspect of it that is that the power vow is much more structured. It's very, very clear, much more structured than the usual traditional resolution. And I will tell you a few things before I describe how the structure is that is very important to know. With a vow like this, you generate a lot of energy. This is why it's called tapas. It's heating. It's a lot of heat. So you're transforming a lot of energy. But if you fail to see through the tapas, let's say that you're doing a tapas for a month, or you're doing a power vow for a month, and you stop after 3 weeks, what happens to all the energy that has been unleashed? It falls back on you. It falls back on you in a quite a chaotic manner. So it's really not beneficial to break a tapas or to break a power vow. If you ever start a power vow, you carry it on, you finish it. If for whatever reason you make a huge vow that takes a long period of time, and in the middle of it or when it's running you realize, hey, this is not working for some reason, there are methods to unsay it, to undo it. But this should be only used in real emergencies, not as kind of a general excuse for not doing it. Because there's so much energy in this, when you've done few power vows, you gain a lot of trust in yourself. You get more self-confidence. Why is that? Because you set out to do certain thing, it is extremely clear when and how it will be done, and if you do it, boom, you gain the strength, you gain the confidence, for the simple reason you did what you said you're going to do. And the more you do that, the more often you do that, the more confident you become in yourself. Hey, when I say I'm going to do something, especially if I put it in a power vow, it happens. So the key here is, when you're going to do a power vow, is to do something that you're absolutely certain that you have the capacity to do. And don't push your limits too much in the beginning. Because what happens when you have a power vow is that it brings out obstacles for you to transform. I've often done meditation practices or energetic practices, and I've done it for quite a long time, but then I bring it into a power vow and all of a sudden it becomes much more challenging. Usually in the beginning it actually flows much stronger, it's much more energy, but at a certain point it becomes more challenging. This is because you're bringing out the obstacle, you're transforming it. This is the beauty of a practice like this, but it's also the danger of extending yourself too much. So if you've been pushing your limit in some kind of practice and you really feel that you're pushing the limits, it's not the time to do precisely that in a power vow. Maybe do 80% of this in a power vow. When you have gained confidence in yourself, you do quite a few of those, sure, you can push your limits, but certainly not in the beginning, because the main thing, you never, ever, ever break it. Ever. This is the rule. Ever. And it's phenomenally good to have these things that you know as a rule, I never break this. Boom. the mind stops bullshitting you. The mind starts doubting it. I've said I'm going to do this. I've said my vows. Boom, this happens. So now I will give you the structure of a power vow. It's in a it's a 4-part structure. So the first part is, who do you dedicate? Who do you dedicate this power vow to? So this is obviously very personal. If you have a good relationship with a god or a goddess or a power being, obviously you do that. But it can vary a lot also. I mean, I've done so many of power vows, and it usually just comes a particular deity that somehow has the characteristics or is able to help in that particular action that I'm in. The second part is the time. The time is, it's very, very clear when this starts and when it finishes. So it can start like it's very classical to start in the new moon, and the power vow can last the whole moon cycle from the new moon until the night before the next new moon. And then the third thing is, what is the aim? What is the goal? Where do you want to send all this energy? Where do you want it to direct it? So that can be everything, to lose weight, to be more loving, to be more happy, to be a better father, to be more grateful. It's really much up to you. And then the fourth part is a description of what is being done. And you can do pretty much anything. A very traditional example of a power vow is fasting. So you don't eat and eat maybe for 3 days or 1 day or something like this. Another traditional example of action is a meditation. Also, of course, exercising, like maybe yoga or some kind of power dancing or power exercises. But it actually can be whatever. It can be whatever action you choose. But be aware that the action will become, at one point during the process, more challenging. Another thing I would like to add is, this is how I was taught to do power vows, is when you have all those 4 points. So it's who is it dedicated to, it's the time, it's the aim, it's the action. What is being done? You have that written down perhaps. What you do is that you say this out loud 3 times. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. And the reason for this is how I was taught, and it makes sense to me, is first time when you say it out loud, kind of the beings, yeah, okay. Yeah, maybe he's interested. The second time they say, okay, very interesting. The third time you say, okay, he's serious. This is going to happen. So I recommend you to do this. This is a phenomenally good practice, and it brings a lot of strength in yourself. It creates a lot of trust, self-trust, and with the increased self-trust, everybody around you start to trust you. Because when you say you're going to do something, when you made up your mind to do something, it happens. So no more broken New Year's resolution, no more broken promises, no more anything like this, which is extremely disempowering. It reduces the trust that we have of ourselves, of our own words, of our own decisions. And you say, stop that is finished. Now I'm going to transform this with the practice of power vow, and I'm going to gain trust in myself, confident in myself, because when I say I'm going to do something, it happens. This is the channel Healing Your Home, where we talk about shamanic, spiritual topics. If you are curious about the shamanic healing, just send me a note on healingyourhome@gmail.com or on my Facebook site, which is also called Healing Your Home. I do healings, distance healings, and so it's an option for everyone in the world as long as you have the internet. Thank you.